Hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of White Sox Daily Live. My name is Ian Eskridge, and I'm here with my co-host, the Danny Miller. How you doing, Danny?
Doing well, man. It has been a while since we have had the opportunity to sit down and chat together.
It's been a minute.
Uh, yeah, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to you and Coach Barquette for being able to sit down together last week and fill some space for me while I was out doing the old racing thing at Road America last weekend. Um, and I not to dwell on the past episodes as we can tend to do sometimes around here, but just want to say that was pretty fantastic stuff. Coach Barquette showed the type of class act and the type of professionalism that he carries with him by just being uh amicable in his uh in his ways as he departs the White Sox organization. You would think that somebody who seemingly was one of the few people that were doing their job with some sort of success, and they you get canned. You think they would be a little bit perturbed by that, but
A little
he
salty,
seemed,
maybe.
yeah, but that interview, like I said, it just shows what kind of a class act the guy is, and I hope nothing but the best for him in his future endeavors. I'm sure he is going to continue to be a great coach for someone.
Yep.
And it's just unfortunate that it's not going to be with the White Sox organization. So thank you for that. But anywho, man, I like I said, I got to spend some time racing last weekend, and I don't know if we have any race fans here on White Sox Daily Live, but I just want to toot my own horn a little bit here and say that my team, aptly named Team NASCAR Motorsports, named after
NASCAR.
it's named after an unprinted artist rendering of a Garbage Pail Kid from back in the day, if you remember those things. Uh, but yeah, we built a car based on we themed it on a failed NASCAR concept, and we came up with that name. But we went to Road America and raced in the 24 Hours Lemons Racing Series. First time they've been there in a decade, and you know we came out on top, man. 142 cars at one of the
Oh yeah.
most well, I'll explain.
Okay.
So, 142 cars in the field in one of the most prestigious road courses, racetracks in pretty much the Western Hemisphere. We did not finish first in our class.
Ah,
We did not finish first in the race overall, but we did win the top prize, which is considered a win. It is the win of all wins. We won on what is called the index of affluency. Uh, Basically meaning we took a race car that probably should have not made it 17 hours of being absolutely brutalized and beat on to go around this 4+ mile track. Uh and we took basically the least amount and did the most with it. We went up against cars that are built out, probably got way more money than the series allows in them,
mm,
you know, what they call cheaty cars. And we went out and we basically bested the better part of that field with
nice. Congrats.
very little. So yeah, we're truly excited about that, and we were shocked, but they enjoyed our performance. We did not see it coming, and we walked away with the top prize. So you know, I just want to brag a little bit, man.
That's
It
cool.
was
Hey.
it was a great time. So
Nice.
anything new and exciting in the world of Mr. Ian since we've talked last? It's been a couple weeks, bud.
Nah, not really. Just the baseball's all wound down for our house now. Just kind of like in a holding pattern until the boy starts wrestling here in a couple of weeks, and that's pretty much about it. Since you brought up that Andy Barquette interview, this is something I didn't. Obviously, I don't. While I'm talking to him, I don't want to bring this up, but after I've had time to stew on this for a while, the more this whole thing aggravates me.
Yeah.
I understand that that Getz wants to put his stamp on things, but I've seen improvements in the minor league system over the last few years. Last 3 years under him, and in particular, in specific instances, of plate discipline and you know things that he directly affected. And like it was always my thought that when you're going and you're getting your uh, coaching and all that stuff set up, that you generally want to have as many good people in the organization as you possibly can. And I feel that letting him go was a mistake. Um,
I can't agree with you more, but
I mean, we'll see.
yeah.
We'll see what happens with whoever does get hired. Um, but it just seems kind of short sighted to not renew his contract and not retain him.
Right.
Um, unless they've got something like pretty stellar up their sleeves, Um,
Right.
I don't know. Like I said, we'll see what happens. But as of right now, I'm less than thrilled about it. I'll say that. Um,
Again, I cannot agree with you more. Like I said, as I started this thing, one of the few people that seemed like they were doing what they were supposed to do. Whether or not, this is a, a Jerry Krause kind of move, where he wants everything to be his. Chris Getz could put his stamp on the organization by keeping the people around that are going to do the right thing as well too. You don't necessarily have to burn it to the ground.
yeah,
I think there were a lot of places that still might hold some people in them that have not been burned to the ground. So yeah, I stew a little bit on that whole situation as well too. Coach Barquette. I've watched some of the videos out there, little snippets of things that his hitting clinics. I know you had your boy doing some work with him and his clinics and whatnot, and obviously the minor league system, as you mentioned, showed some improvement under his tutelage, and we just haven't seen it make its way up to the big league club yet, or at least not in full.
yeah,
And it's just unfortunate that we're not going to get to see what his stamp on the hitting approach of this major league team is going to be, because who knows, if all the work that he has done is going to continue to be something that is taught along the way, or if somebody new is going to come in and basically tell you, these young kids to start with an empty cup and forget all that stuff, and I'm going to teach you something different.
yeah. Um, Ladder Enjoyer says, "Bring me Tim Hires," and he's with the Rangers, and the thing is that's a guy who Barquette used to work with. So if you're going to bring in Hires,
Could have kept Andy.
you know what I'm saying? And like the funny thing is that Brian Bannister, when he got hired, he's like, "Oh, cool, I get to work with Andy Barquette again."
Not so much.
Guess not. So yeah. But yeah, Tim Hires, obviously
I
has
mean, the
pedigree.
Rangers are doing some things, man.
Yes, they certainly are.
They are hitting well. They have been
Yeah.
hitting well most of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into the playoffs in a little while, but I can't say that I'm not surprised by what has been happening to the poor Astros and
Mm.
Mr. Pito. Um, so, uh, I found out from Andy himself about not being renewed, and this week, about a week after, I think about a week after we found out through Twitter, the White Sox confirmed that Daryl Boston and Castro are both, and that the one thing I found pretty interesting about the press release that was put out by the White Sox was it says that Kurt Hassler and Chris Johnson were offered positions in the organization. I'm curious what exactly that means. Now, are we talking, are we talking that they got something insulting? Like, yeah, you can do this if you want to stick around. Is it like that, or are we going to see them? Because the thing is that you don't know what positions they were offered, and because the White Sox are so
God, I hope it wasn't
slow.
ticket agent. Because those ticket agents got it rough right now,
Oh
man.
man, trying to sell
Woo.
tickets with this organization right now.
Could
Good
you
night.
imagine? Hey, could you imagine Coach Hassler trying to sell tickets? He'd be like, "F this, dude. I'm out."
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly what we'll see. I mean, obviously, we'll see what ends up. If they end up sticking around, number one, and I will say this: if CJ doesn't stick around, um, that's like a large chunk of the biometric, you know,
Right.
arm of the White Sox development system if he's gone. So, um, be interesting to see, you know, what ends up happening. And I know that they're talking about reshaping the thing, and Chris Getz wants to get his hands on everything. And my question though is, you were there before,
Right.
so I mean, obviously, Barquette was not, quote unquote, his guy, um, because otherwise he'd still be here.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see who he brings in, and with how long it takes the White Sox to announce things, we'll probably find out a week. Again, a week ahead of time on Twitter until we get confirmation that that's actually what really happened. Um, so yeah, just kind of frustrating. Um, and obviously, you have to wait for the playoffs to wrap up and everything. I don't know, you know, if they're hiring Royals guys, you don't have to wait. Just a little spoiler alert. You don't have to wait for the Royals to do their things. How's it going, Draft? Good to see you. Thanks for hopping on. Appreciate it.
It's going well. That's me.
Ah, look at you. I don't know who you are.
Yeah. Nah,
It's
most people don't. I like it that way.
stealthy. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. The whole front office thing. It's just kind of aggravating. And with the news that came out today, which we will obviously get into in a little while, Kim Eng declined her option with the Marlins and decided to. She decided, you know what, guys? If you guys are going to go ahead and try and hire somebody in the development side above me, I'm out. So she dipped on the Marlins, and she's out on the market right now. So we will see. Um, what ends up happening with her. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So MLB Trade Rumors came out with all their estimated ARB dollar amounts for the guys that are arbitration eligible. So I just wanted to go through that with you and see who you're paying and who you're shooing out the door. Um, and we'll start with one right off the top, and I'm fairly certain I know what you're going to say. Clint Frazier is estimated to get a pay bump to $900,000 a year. Are you paying that arbitration number?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, me either.
100. Do I even need to go into why? I mean, I like to think that our listeners are, you know, fairly familiar, at least our regulars are fairly familiar with how you and I feel
Yeah.
about some of these guys, and there's really no reason to go into detail on why I think I'm not paying him. So
I'm not going to lie. I had hope that Clint Frazier would at
yeah,
least be semi productive. And when he came up, he did a couple of things that were nice. But as he stuck around, you saw the warts. Um, and, he didn't really hit it all. He did see some pitches, so that was good. But the problem is that when you get your pitch, you need to hit it, and he never did.
right.
I mean, the fact that that guy never hit a home run with the White Sox is
Yeah,
mind
astounding.
blowing. Yeah, I mean, like you see him in the minors, and you saw him with the Yankees, and like that was pretty much the only thing he could do. And
Yeah,
he
hit
comes to the White
dingers.
Sox, nothing. You know, so
Yeah, it's a shame. Maybe he finds his power stroke again somewhere else. Maybe he leaves baseball altogether. I don't really know, but it didn't work here, and that's where I'm at on him.
it certainly did not. They do this whole thing by service time. So Clint Frazier had 4.092 years of service time. Next guy up is Dylan Cease at 4.089 years of service time. And his estimated arbitration salary, the payout or whatever, is 8.8 million. I assume that you're going to pick that up.
Yeah. Couple of reasons. One is I feel like, we've seen what Dylan Cease can do, even if he was only a shell of that this past season. Uh, but he does have ace potential in him, and you kind of got to hope that he returns that form where he's in the top, handful of guys getting Cy Young votes. And at $8 million a year, that's a steal if you can get that. So I absolutely give him that opportunity. And there's the other fact that the White Sox are going to end up with some holes in the rotation that need to be filled, and you can't expect to not sign Dylan Cease and be able to go on the free agent market or make the trades to fill an entire staff. It seems like at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely picking that up.
Yeah. And the next one in the order of service time is 4.041 years of service time, and that's Michael Kopech. Um, and his estimated is 3.6 million. And I assume that you're going to pick that up as well.
Yeah, again, low dollars for a potentially high ceiling. But again, you hope that you don't get the Michael Kopech who served up, cookies all season long. Um, Again, he's a guy who has in the past shown us some really high potential. You just got to hope that he puts it together. Maybe this new I don't know, what do you want to say? The new philosophy of the
Um,
White Sox
yeah.
will bring in some new energy and a different kind of mindset for these guys. So yeah, $3.5 million, definitely taking that.
Yeah, like that. Like the whole thing is that, you're hoping that Brian Bannister is going to come in and work with these two guys and get them on the level. Where everybody estimated that they would be at this time. And figure out exactly like what's going on with Dylan Cease and why he's not able to get those outs that he got in 2022. You know, um, Yeah, both of these are no brainers in my opinion. Um,
Absolutely.
Next up on the list at 4.010 years of service time at $1.7 million, Trace Thompson.
Uh, Oof, he's what,
I don't know.
35,
Oh, let me.
33, somewhere in there.
I don't know. I don't think
He's
he's
made
that. I
his
don't think
way
he's
through.
that old.
I mean, this has got to be. I think this is the fourth time he's with the team. No, third at least.
Third, yeah. Trace
Uh,
Thompson.
hasn't. I mean, he did have a couple of months
Yeah.
where he did some things for another team,
Yeah, he is
which we will
32.
not speak
Holy
of.
cow. Time
Yeah, he's
flies
up
when you're having
there.
fun.
And honestly, I would as much hope as we had for Trace Thompson when he was young, because we all did. I mean, the guy had that stigma around him where he was gonna be, he was gonna be King Dingaling. Uh, for all that, his time has kind of come and gone, and I only hope that the White Sox has a solid core of outfield where I'm not depending on Trace Thompson to be a guy, even if he's a fourth outfielder. I'm sorry, Trace. I mean nothing against you, but I don't think I'm spending $1 million plus on Trace Thompson.
No, launch that guy into the sun. Should have never come back in that deal in the first place. Although I will say, uh, Nick Nastrini and Jordan Leisure for Joe Kelly and Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn gives up a ton of home runs in the last playoff series against the Diamondbacks. Gives up, 4 home runs. And Dave Roberts is asleep at the wheel. Doesn't pull him after, like two. Um, and uh,
Much
and
like Pedro this season,
and they
leaving
got
Lance Lynn to die.
yeah, and they literally got zero out of Joe Kelly because he got injured again within a couple of weeks of being there. So that deal looks pretty good for that because I didn't want either one of them sticking around at this point because really, what was the point? If you get something of value for them, you do that, and they did, and I'll take it. Um,
Absolutely.
Now, but again, why Trace Thompson was included in that? The only reason I could see is that the Dodgers are like, yeah, we'll take those two guys. That seems like a pretty good deal, and we'll give you two prospects, but you got to take him as well because we got no place for him, and we don't want to pay him, $1 million or whatever it is that we're paying him. So,
Probably. I would guess that's probably right. And hey, you're an organization that has some familiarity with them. Here's an old friendly face.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I like Joe, and I like Lance Lynn, but uh, as people, I don't want them on the baseball team any longer. Um,
oh, and it's such a shame because when Lance Lynn, I was kind of on the fence about when they first grabbed him up, and just because we knew that he was this guy who exactly what the White Sox tried to sell us on him becoming a Southsider was that he's a guy that can go out and get you 200 innings a season, and he's gonna kind of be he's not gonna be your ace, but he's gonna be that anchor that can go out and you know just eat innings up and keep you in games so that you can win. And unfortunately, it got to the point where Lance Lynn couldn't get those 200 innings a season for the White Sox anymore, and it was just a shame. And then the same thing with Joe Kelly. You're looking at this guy. Here's the guy with all the attitude in the world, the spark that the White Sox need. I loved everything about it. Pouty face Joe, bring him on. Let's go. Never really created that spark.
yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of hard to do that when you're always injured. Um,
Well, right. That impingement or whatever it was in his elbow.
yeah, and the thing, and
Was,
like I said, I like Joe. I like what he brings, but the problem is if he's never healthy, it really doesn't matter at all.
right.
Um, Next on the list, 3.093 years of service time, which, again, one of those things where I go, where is all the time gone? 740K for Matt Foster.
That one's tough. Because we know, again, like some of our other pitchers, we know what he's capable of. He can be solid, but there's a consistency issue. Staying consistently solid. Uh, I'm a little on the fence with this one just because of the cost. And we know that, well, we don't know for sure, but it seems as though this White Sox team is probably not going to go out and spend a fortune in the offseason. We do have a handful of guys in the minors that can fill bullpen spots. So maybe get those guys sometime. But at the same time, I don't know, man. 740K for a guy who can, do it. He can shove sometimes. Might be worth it. I'm kind of stuck on this one, to be honest with you. I'd actually like to hear your thoughts on this one.
My personal feeling on it is if Brian Bannister doesn't think that he can be better than he has been, like markedly
Well,
better than he has been, then
right, right,
I'm ready to launch him because we've got, like the one, as we've said, the one thing that the White Sox have generally been pretty decent at developing: utility guys and bullpen arms.
right.
So I'm perfectly fine with moving on from Matt Foster. And like the thing is that I think that the White Sox did him a major disservice with how he was handled. Um,
As they have with many.
you know, especially from I don't have him on this scene. I haven't added him to this scene, so I can't do it right now. But TLR leaving him out there to die, at the very beginning of 2021, I believe. Um,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
That was 21.
yeah. I
I think
mean,
it was like the 8th game of the season. It was
something like that. Yeah,
horrendous.
yeah. Like that whole thing. It just it was like in Seattle in like the fifth inning or something like that, and just let him give up and left him out there and let him give up 8 runs, and it was like,
Maybe that's where the 8 is stuck in my head. It was
yeah,
8 runs, I believe.
yeah. It was like, I'm at the boys' baseball game, and I'm listening to it on my phone while I'm watching his game, and I'm just pacing up and down the first base line, just sitting here muttering, "What is he doing? Why is he still in the game?" And this is after like 3 runs.
And they had a lead
Yeah, did. Yeah,
going into that.
right. So, it was like after that, it was just like this, like, pretty slow funneling thing where he went from useful at one point to like that was the start of his season pretty much, and then he just became unusable after that, and then he ended
Yep.
up getting injured, and then we've pretty much never seen him again. So I say let him walk. Next on the list, 3.071 years of service time, Tuki Toussaint coming in at $1.7 million. Now the thing is that he's arbitration eligible, but he only signed a 1-year contract. So I'm kind of unclear because he's coming in arbitration eligible. But if he's signing a 1-year, if he only signed a 1-year contract last year, shouldn't that mean
Yeah,
that
he's basically a
he's?
free agent.
I mean, he doesn't have a ton of service time and arbitration. That's what it would be, I guess. Yeah, I'm not entirely 100% sure what that means. But if it was
Was that
1.7
1-year
million,
contract? Did it come with an option year?
I don't believe so. I think that it says that like that's the thing is that if you look him up on Spot Track, and I've done it, and I'll look it up here right quick. Tuki Toussaint Spot Track.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so it says ARB 1, 2, and 3 coming for the next 3 years. So, but the thing is that if you looked at his thing, he had a 1-year deal with Cleveland for 720,000. And if he's an unrestricted free agent, I guess he's not. Okay, that's what it is. He's not an unrestricted free agent where he can sign and do whatever he wants until 2027 because he's still in his ARB years. Okay, that makes sense, I guess.
right. Okay.
But 1.7
Thank you for
million,
clarifying that.
I'd say for under
Oh,
$2 million.
yeah, I'm keeping the guy. I mean, was he an ace? No. But, as I've said in past shows, he was one of the guys that you knew what you were getting game in and game out.
Ish,
He
ish.
ish. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, with this White Sox starting rotation this past season, everybody had clunkers. There wasn't anybody that was, what's the word I'm looking for here? Immune to, you know, giving up some runs.
yeah,
But
that's for sure.
for the most part, you pretty much knew what you were going to get out of Tukey. And at that dollar amount, again, you're looking at a White Sox rotation that is fairly depleted. And we've talked about this many times in the past too. Starting rotations. You might start out with a rotation of 5 at the beginning of the season, but by the end of the season, most teams have had 8, 9, 10, 11 starters at some point. And this is a guy who showed that he can get through a full season almost, and continue to pitch at least enough to keep you in games. So yeah, I don't think that you're gonna go out and spend a ton of money on free agent pitching when you have this guy who is to you for less than 2 million.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I don't see any reason to not keep him because, you know, knowing what this team has in AAA and knowing that some of these guys can, elect free agency or whatever, or can, go do whatever they want to do. Uh, you don't know necessarily 100% what you're going to have available. Like, Jesse Schulten's put in a lot of quality innings for the White Sox. Granted, we're not talking, again, we're not talking ace stuff, um, but certainly serviceable to get you through 4 or 5 innings to start a game, you know?
Right.
And obviously, with limited innings counts in some games where he's only going, 4 innings, uh, you're going to run into bullpen fatigue and things like that, which is obviously less than ideal. But at the same time, if you run into a situation where you guys, where the White Sox only have, 4 starters, but you've got yourself a Tukey, you've got yourself a Schultens, you got yourself those 2 guys. You can do like what the White Sox were doing in the minor leagues and piggyback them,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
figure out which one's going to start the game and have the next guy take over for him. And if if Tukey pitches 3 and Schultens pitches 3 or 4, then you get 7 innings out of him, and that reduces the amount of bullpen fatigue you get. And
Right.
I mean,
And the thing about this upcoming 2024 season that's different than the last few years is we have been talking about this contention window for, the last 3 or 4 seasons. And where we're at right now, we know that we are no longer in any kind of contend for anything, let alone a World Series or, going a deep playoff run. We're not even contending for the MLB Central at this point. So I mean, when you talk about guys like Tukey Toussaint and Jesse Schultens, those are the kind of guys that are going to help you bridge the gap to becoming competitive again. And for the dollar amounts that you're going to spend on guys in that, that level of talent, you have to just go ahead and fill those holes and fill those gaps until you can rebuild better.
yeah,
And I say that, and I hate to sound like a political slogan. I should take that back, but uh, I mean rebuild better in the fact that we went through this rebuild, over the last 6 or 7 years, and I just hope that this next one it's not just a bunch of smoke and mirrors like the last one was. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. I mean,
There's no mistake about where we're at.
yeah. I mean, we'll get into a little bit of this stuff later, at least a little bit. I don't think that you can necessarily hang the way that this one went on what could possibly come of what's coming with this next situation that we've
Wave,
got going on.
yeah,
Yeah, like I feel like the drafting has been a lot better, and that you're seeing a lot more results out of some of these guys that are coming in from the last couple of draft classes. Um, I feel like the overall talent floor has gone up, despite the fact that it's not quite as it's not as top heavy as it used to be, right?
right,
Where you had like 4 guys who were like top 100 guys. So at the time, it made the farm system look really good because the guys that were at the top of the farm were like those guys, the
right,
guys that everybody covets. Um, I feel like things are better along this time than they were last time. That said,
Yeah, there's definitely more balance. Like you said, when you got those 4 guys and you graduate those guys, the system tanks rapidly, right? Now with the balance that they have and at all levels, aside from maybe well, I guess we did graduate a couple of those guys to Charlotte here at the end of the season, but you know, before when you talk about those, 4 or 5 guys that are the top guys in the system, they were all kind of, close at the same time, right? Or within a year or 2 of each other. We've got just a more balanced system throughout where you've got guys who are making their way up to Charlotte and Birmingham, and you got the guys that are had just been drafted in the last year or two who are doing some things down in Kannapolis and uh wow, losing my mind here.
Winston Salem.
Winston Salem.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. So, just to have that kind of, this is, I mean, I think this is kind of what Rick Hahn was talking about when he said being able to have a continued pipeline. I just hope, I think he was hoping for more out of his top prospects, but I think we're
you and me
probably in a
both,
little
pal.
bit better. Well, we're in a little bit better of a situation, I guess, is what I'm saying now.
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
just hope that trend continues.
maybe like the thing is that like I'd like to think that I mean more or less like the issue has been health and and from what it kind of seems, and it's a sad state of affairs for me to even mention this, but also the desire,
Right.
like
Absolutely.
it's one of those things, like where you watch the Diamondbacks right now, right? The Diamondbacks didn't have like all these guys that were
Yeah.
touted in
Big
the
time.
top 100 that were supposed to
Right.
be. I mean, they had a couple, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
they didn't have like this, crazy, top 50, 4 guys in the top 50 type thing, and those guys didn't get deals before they even played a single pitch in Major League Baseball for millions of dollars. And
Right.
like they weren't anointed to be the next superpower before they did a thing. They had to scratch and claw, and they did. And I mean, they're in the National League Championship Series right now. You know,
Right.
I mean, they're losing 5-3 at the moment, but you know, that's still more than anybody expected out of this team. You know, and it's kind of one of those things where maybe the White Sox will learn to make sure that the guys that they get are a little bit have a little bit more you know burning
Some
competitiveness.
moxie.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, man.
yeah, I'll get to
Come
it in a minute, but
on, man.
like I don't know, did you watch that did you happen to catch that Bryce Harper Pat McAfee interview
I
from
have not, and I've seen so many people tell me that I need to see that.
there's a little clip flying around on Twitter that's like 10 minutes long or whatever, but the entire interview is pretty fantastic. And I'll get into that in a little bit. All
All
right.
right.
Let's finish the ARB numbers here. Garrett
Yeah,
Crochet,
absolutely.
just a, hair a little bit over 3 years, 900K. You're paying that 900K.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're not going to not pay that because you're not going to let him leave for that amount of money. There's no way.
No.
And then
No, you
Andrew
still need to
Vaughn.
see what you have in him.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
really haven't had that opportunity yet.
yeah. And plus, if you just use him, even if you do him the disservice of leaving him as just a reliever and not even allowing him the opportunity to stretch out a little bit, even if you do that, you still got to keep him. Andrew Vaughn, 3 years on the dot, 3.7 million. He's league
It,
average.
for three
So
million, or
yeah,
be a little over 3 million.
yeah,
Maybe.
for almost 4. But I mean,
Just under 4.
you're
You're right.
not going to let. I mean, he's a former first round draft pick and as at least a major league serviceable. And the thing is that he you know, when his back's not hurting or his hamstrings aren't hurting, he does. He played a little bit this year. He didn't sit out too much, so.
His first half seemed like he was gonna be the guy, and then like power numbers tapered off. So you hope that.
But then they
God,
caught up
I
at the
mean,
end of the year.
right? You just you just hope that we've been talking about this now for 2 seasons, and we're going into the third year of Andrew Vaughn. He's got to take that next step.
Yeah,
So
take it, man. Let's
take it.
go. Like, what are
Let's
we
go.
waiting for here?
You either take that next step or you take a flying leap, but one or the other.
So,
Let's do something.
yeah, I'm tired of talking about it.
Right.
So, as I mentioned earlier, Kim Eng declines her option to stay with the Marlins. Ownership. So, the little backstory here is that she was brought in by Derek Jeter when he was running the Marlins. He had a falling out with the ownership group because he didn't agree with the way that they wanted to develop people, and so he left. And Kim Eng's been here, been there doing it for a few years since he dipped out, and so
Well, it's been
the
all year, I think. Actually, didn't Derek Jeter step down last season? End of last
it's
year.
at the end of 2021. Maybe she got hired
Either way,
after
she's been there.
2020. She's been there for like 3
She's been
years.
there 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
I think
shocker.
he left after 2021, so it's been 2 years that she's been there solo. But
Okay, all right.
so the thing that I heard was that there was like a little bit of leftover, you know, Jeterishness, I guess, with the ownership group. That she was brought in by Jeter, and they wanted to, you know, put their stamp
Wash their
on it,
hands. Yeah.
and get rid of the Jeter part of it, and that was like why they decided that they wanted to try and hire somebody over her, and by doing so, she decided, you know what, you're going to try and put somebody in charge of me after I just got the team to the playoffs. Yeah, I'm not doing that, and I'm not going to exercise my option. So now she's out on the open market. Now here's the question. I've seen since this news came out this morning, and I tweeted about it. I put it out on the account. That Kim Ing's out there, and a little bit of sour grapes about the fact that Jerry didn't wait until that whole thing was done and over with. At least even until the season was over with.
I was gonna say,
To
let's just can we wait till the off season to see who's out there and available before we appoint or anoint
I mean,
guys that are already in the organization? Come on.
it's the White
Anywho,
Sox thing, right? They want to make sure that they get the guy that they really want. So because apparently Getz was going somewhere else, like,
right?
or he wanted to get like that extra couple of weeks a head start, so he could do his deep dive.
I owe it to the White Sox fans to get this thing done quickly because we
Yeah,
don't have
shut up.
time.
Yeah, shut up. Um.
Oh, good lord.
Anywho,
Anywho.
so my question is, and I sent out a couple of questions to a fellow streamer slash blog site guy for the Marlins, asking him how he felt, and I haven't heard back yet. I just did it like 2 hours ago or whatever. But I've seen mixed reactions from the Marlins fan base. Mostly though, not too thrilled that she's gone after what she's done. And so my question is that now that Chris Getz is the one voice, as Jerry likes to say, if you are going to put her in a role of, in charge of development, and give her like some sort of a presidential title of some sort that would be not a demotion from what she was doing in Miami, is she somebody that the White Sox want?
I mean, I would sure hope so. I mean, if you're looking for a serious answer on this question from me, I would
I
sure
am.
hope so.
Yeah. Okay. So what?
She started her career as an intern in the White Sox
Fine.
organization in the mid
That's
'90s. I
cool.
don't remember exactly what year. So there again, and you and I and White Sox Daily's very own Logan Hard kind of had a little text, chat thread conversation about this earlier. We all know how Jerry's loyalty runs deep. And, when you hear something like someone who has been part of the White Sox organization in the past, maybe his ears are ringing a little bit. I don't know. But, uh, you know, her being the first woman GM in all of the four major North American sports, aside from that, the history that she's got a pretty damn good resume. And the things that she did in Miami seasons, I mean, just look at where they were at in the postseason this year.
Yeah. No, I know.
With what, the 23rd or 21st overall highest payroll, and the moves that she made, and she really bolstered the club with a couple of moves just in this mid-season trade deadline. Uh, they just seem to develop guys that half the time you've never even heard of, and they come up and they do things. You know what I mean? Uh,
Do they though?
but I'm not saying they're
Since
superstars.
she's been there, this is what I'm getting at. Is that I'm playing devil's advocate here, and I'm not saying
Okay,
that I wouldn't want her, right? Because but the thing is that Chris Getz, unless they fire him, he is the GM.
correct.
As the GM for the Marlins, let me read some of the trades that she did. She
Okay,
got Berger for obviously for Jake Eater. Jake Eater
right.
was a fourth rounder in 2020 in that abbreviated weird draft. She got Arias from the Twins for Pablo Lopez, and here's another one, Byron Churio, who's a guy. So the
He
Twins
is a guy.
did get some stuff, for Luis Arias. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to not see him all the time now,
I was gonna say,
but
and the Rise is not one of those guys that you can't just throw him out there like, they got a Rise. Like,
yeah, no,
dude's done some stuff.
yeah, good trade. I'm not saying it was a bad trade. I'm just saying that they did give up some stuff for that. They got now here's like a couple of pretty good ones. They got Jesus Lizard for Starling Marte, which 10 times out of 10 you do that. That's a expiring
Right.
contract at the time. Uh, and they got Brian Dela Cruz for Yimi Garcia, which you do that also because also expiring deal. They got their closer AJ Puck for trading JJ Bleday, who, when he was drafted, he was a pretty well regarded guy. And in the minors, he didn't really put up astounding numbers, so it wasn't like a huge loss per se. And then they got Josh Bell for Gene Segura, and here was the weird one, right? This trade, they traded Gene Segura and Khalil Watson, which Khalil Watson, do you know anything about Khalil Watson?
Why don't you go ahead and refresh my memory?
Anywho, so he was when he was drafted, he was supposed to be like one of the guys in the draft, first round
Right.
draft pick. You know,
And that's about what the length of my knowledge on him
yeah,
is.
yeah.
I do remember that he was supposed to be a guy.
Good bat speed, great glove, fast. Was supposed to have a above average hit tool. Was supposed to develop into some nice power. Um, the only thing that happened was that he was a decent fielder, and that he had speed. He didn't really produce a whole lot for the Marlins, and he was drafted the year before. No, the year before. I believe no, it was in 2021. So the first year that she got there, that was their number one pick. I believe he was in 21. Yeah, first rounder 2021.
Okay.
Didn't do anything with all these, all these tools, which I'm not saying that any of this is necessarily her fault. Um, but in the minor leagues, he got rung up by a first base umpire, and he acted like his bat was a gun, and he pointed it at the first base umpire, and got suspended for a while. So that trade for Josh Bell looks like it cost a lot, but in reality, probably saved them a pretty large headache because that guy seems like a real idiot.
Not to mention that Josh Bell, the second half of this season, did
Great,
some things for
yeah,
them.
absolutely. I'm not disputing any of that. I'm just the
Right.
whole Khalil Watson thing is just kind of one
Right.
of
No,
those like
I got you.
crazy stories that you're like, what is wrong with this dude? Anyway, so their drafts, if you look at their top 30 up until this year, um, the last couple of drafts, um, you know how like with this draft for the White Sox, this draft for the Marlins, same thing. Um, People felt that both of those teams did really well in the draft. And so their top 30 got a nice influx of talent, in the top 30. I mean, you could say what you want about like where the farm system's supposed to be and why these guys are infiltrating the top 30.
Right.
But their top 30 from the last couple of drafts, there's not a whole lot like it's like three guys from like each draft that are in the top 30. And you look around at their numbers and the guys who are doing things, um, it's not guys from the draft really. You know,
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying it's like there hasn't been like a whole lot of like these guys that are just like quickly scaling through the system. It hasn't been like a crazy ascension for any of these guys. So it's not like you know you see like any of this like crazy development by the system. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
and
So, no, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I mean, there's the international side of things. Now, this is one thing where the you look at the White Sox and you look at the Marlins, and you couldn't have two polar opposites.
Yeah, the White Sox are head and shoulders above.
No, I mean, like, I'm not even talking about the results, but like some of the guys
Okay.
that they've gotten have been really good, and are in their top 30. Um, but when you look at the numbers and the difference in philosophy in how they handle the international market in 2021 to 22, like how they do like that weird staggered year for the international markets. But 21
Right.
22, they signed 39 prospects. 39. Now you look at the White Sox, they signed like 8. you
Right.
know, 8 or 10.
The White Sox go for the high dollar, big name.
Not really. I mean, you look at. Well, I mean, the thing
Oh,
is,
that's
is that
true.
they'll sign like two guys that are like high dollar amount, and then they'll sign like five or six that are like kind of in the middle of the road. But you know, then they'll trade $1 million away that they just don't use.
Right.
As opposed to the Marlins, where 21-22 it was 39 guys. In 22-23, 35.
Wow.
And of their top 30, 7 of those guys in the top 30 right now are from those two international market times. And the only reason why Byron Churio isn't in it is because he got traded. And then I know that there's another guy for, I forget which deal it was, but there was another guy. I can't remember which deal it is, but there's another trade that they did where they sent another guy that was in their top 30 that was also from the 21-22
International
international.
class.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
like you look at that and it's like complete night and day difference in the way that they handle this stuff, and it makes me wonder if you're gonna do if Jerry goes off book here and does actually hire Kim Eng back, say he puts her in as like the vice president of baseball operations, because right now they only have a director of baseball operations. So they
Right.
put her in at VP of baseball operations and then put her in charge of the international market, just as an overseer, because they want to change the philosophy of the way that they handle it, and also put her in charge of the farm system as a overall.
Development.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if they're not planning on doing it with Josh Barfield, which they might be, I don't. Again, you look at the titles that you see on the front office, like org chart. When you look at their website, who the hell knows what any of these
Right.
people actually do? Because what it says they do and what they actually do, half the time is not the same.
Well, no, especially when we know what the specialties are, what those guys bring to the table in, whether it be a past life or, an earlier life or whatever. Uh, yeah, the title doesn't often match what they are best suited for.
Yeah, and half the time, it's like you look at like a bunch of these a bunch of these names on this thing and the titles that they have. A lot of these people wear multiple hats.
Correct.
They do multiple things. It might say one thing, but not only do they do one thing, but they also do another. It's exactly like Chris Johnson. He's the head biomechanist for the entire organization, but his title says that he's the hitting coach of Charlotte.
Correct.
At least
Right.
it did up
Exactly my
until he
point.
was, up until he was in, you know, White Sox land here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, that's what I meant by, past lives, I guess. Yeah,
anywho's,
I'm with you. You don't really know what's going on scenes, and it as far as the White Sox are concerned, we probably never will because obviously some of the things that have been leaked throughout, especially within the last few years, whether it comes to tech or biometrics or strength and conditioning, or we're told one thing and we don't really see another, what we're being told, and the numbers of let's just say advanced analytics staff and all these things. We don't really know what's going on there because there doesn't seem to be the information that's being leaked and whispered about. It doesn't seem to be coming to fruition in the real world. So you never know what's going on with this team. Never. It's
well,
it's it's insanity.
yeah, I will throw this out there, and I can throw this out there now because Coach Barquette is no longer with the organization. But watching his webinars, when he would have like other people on who I won't mention by name because, as far as I know, I don't want to mention them by name because I don't want to single them out. But it was mentioned that all of these guys did multiple jobs and had multiple roles within the organization. Instead of them having multiple guys to do these jobs, you have multiple jobs for one person. So you've got everything spread too thin, you know? And this is
Right. It
exactly
can become overwhelming, and we
100%.
just, oh,
We talked about this with Ethan Katz. When you've
we
got
did.
10 guys that are on the road that are in your pitching staff that are all having problems, and you're tasked with fixing all of them, and it's just like you can't get to every single little problem and it's like once you get into the season, you're screwed because working
Right.
on this stuff in season, and
It's already too late.
a guy reverts back to it while he's on the mound, and you go out and you have a talk with him and you're like, hey, you're doing this, and he's like, okay, cool, I'll fix it. He fixes it for one pitch and then reverts right back to it. I mean, it's like you can't expect bare bones staff to do all of the things that you are trying to accomplish. And this is the thing that makes me like ticked off about the Barquette thing is that when you have not enough staff and you see all the things that he brought into the organization with the eye pitch and the pressure plates and developing stuff with Chris Johnson and with Devin DeYoung and Cam Seitzer and working with these guys on building a program instead of removing people that that are you know semi competent at their job, at least.
Yeah, why not add?
Why not add to it? Why not both?
Well, the answer to that question is money.
Yeah, probably. All right, let's get away from this this
I mean,
aggravation
I'm
here.
just saying.
Let's create new
What?
aggravation.
Let's
Um,
do that.
so
That sounds like fun.
tonight, the D-backs took on the Phillies, and the D-backs have
Oh
been,
God, I didn't know this is where you were going. That
oh
is
yeah,
outrageous.
yeah, absolutely. We're gonna create more problems here.
Mm.
So um, so the D-backs went out and
Here goes another half a pack of smokes.
more or less just completely decimated the Los Angeles Dodgers. Their pitching staff held Freddie Freeman and Mookie Boots to 1 for 21.
Ouch.
And, just spanked them. Like they just
Yeah.
look completely demoralized. You see
Mm-hmm.
them panning down the dugout, and just everybody looks sad. And that's like these guys. They're all, I mean they lost tonight, but they're pumped up and they're energetic and they're doing things that is fun. They're fun
Right.
to watch.
Absolutely.
And
Unlike the White Sox.
the Phillies, they've been funner.
Yes, they have.
That Braves series was, personally, I'm a Bryce fan, and that series was a lot of fun for me to watch. And so, I brought this up to Nick Morawski on Twitter earlier tonight. I asked him if he had watched that Pat McAfee interview, and he said, "Oh, I only watched a clip. I didn't watch the whole thing." And I said, "Well, I would recommend you do watch it because watching somebody that has that desire burning
That
inside of them to
competitive edge.
play baseball and how much he loves baseball, and just hearing him talk about the fan base and the city." And Colson Montgomery just got hit by a pitch, and he looks like he's all right.
Okay.
You watch, just like the fire coming out of him when he's talking about this stuff and how pumped up he is and how he talks about, the attitude that they've got in the clubhouse for the Phillies. And I have to ask, the White Sox didn't even offer him a contract. And Bryce Harper himself said that they had a good meeting.
Yeah.
Now, didn't even offer him a contract. Went after Manny Machado, which by all accounts of everything that I've seen, now I know that his teammates say he's a great dude and everything, but I watched this guy play. Well, the Dodgers didn't like him. I know that. But when he was on the Dodgers, him stepping on people's feet on purpose at first base and just pulling all this crap.
Spiking guys on slides into second
Yeah,
base, and
just
yeah, just
complete garbage bush league crap. And this is the
oh, I'll
guy.
just come straight out and say, you just douchebag,
Yeah, 100%. And this is
douchebag.
the guy that they decided to put all their energy into signing. Meanwhile, Bryce Harper, you hear these interviews with him, and he sounds like exactly the kind of guy that you should want to be the guy in your franchise. And my thing here
And dare
is
I say, we knew at the time that Bryce Harper was going to be the better ball player. I mean,
I
everybody
felt
thought.
so. Some people
I'm pretty
didn't.
sure most of the world. There were
So no,
comparisons to
I mean,
hey, listen,
like,
when Mike Trout was doing Mike Trout things, and Mike Trout continues to do Mike Trout things when he's healthy,
yeah,
but I mean, Mike Trout has been called the best player ever by some folks.
yep,
Best player to ever play the game of baseball. And there were comparisons right around this time. What was that, 2018, I believe? 17, 18, when that sweepstakes was going on, no?
2018, yeah,
Yeah. Right around that time, people were comparing Bryce Harper's uh, you know, trajectory
yeah. But
along the same.
some people didn't like him though. They said they thought he was a douchebag because they didn't like his hair, or because he got into a fight with Jonathan Papelbon, who everybody knows is a notorious a
He's
hole.
a dick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like that was that like, and they're like, oh, it's too much money to pay. And now, when his salary's 25, and then you look and you paid Dallas Keuchel and Larry Garcia last year, you paid those two guys 24 million to give you point 0.1 WAR, and he's out there doing what he's. I mean, granted, he had the TJ last year, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. Like he's going and putting up
He's
huge numbers.
productive every season, even when he's banged up and hurt. He's
Yeah,
productive.
he's got one MVP
He's got the
with the
thumb thing
Phillies.
that he had going
He's
on
hit like
while ago.
130 home runs with the Phillies since he signed there. Um, and he's taken them to a World Series last year. Um, it by all accounts, like if they keep on playing the way they're playing right now, they're probably gonna, I mean, granted, Wheeler has been out of his mind. Another guy
And
that the White
so is
Sox tried
Bryce
to sign.
Harper.
Yeah, no, I
Bryce
know.
Harper's, I mean, how many home runs does he have in this postseason alone? I mean,
This
he's
one,
just been,
like
he's got his hair is on fire.
four. I think he's got four this postseason. But he is he's what 2 home runs away from having the all-time Phillies lead in home runs in the postseason, and he's been there for 2 postseason runs. How absurd is that? He's going to. I mean, you think about like Ryan Howard. That guy lived in the postseason for like 5-6 years. Jason Worth, who's the guy who actually does have the lead, at 14, he had 4 years of playoffs, I think, something like that. And Bryce Harper's going to, assuming that he hits like another 2 home runs in the postseason here, he's going to tie him in 2 years in the postseason.
Right. You got guys like, Carl Schwarber, who's been a Phillies postseason hero.
Castellanos hit like what 5 home runs in 3 games. So my question is this: is if you went and you had this interview with Bryce Harper, and from every interview I've ever seen about the guy, the way he talks about baseball, if that's not what the front office was looking for when you're doing this interview and meeting free agents, if that's not what you're looking for, then you've got issues. And you're making the wrong decisions.
Because 13 years guaranteed was too much. So we're going to offer Manny 10.
Yeah, but it's still the same amount of money.
And right, exactly. And then we're not even going to guarantee. We're going to offer Manny 10. We're not going to guarantee the last 3, and we're going to make it insane. This is how the White Sox do business, and you expect to be able to sign. Like, I mean, granted, I don't mind you getting creative as long as it gets the job done. But when you get too cute with
obviously, I mean,
the
I don't think we
upper
need to even get into
echelon
that
superstar,
nonsense. I'm not
it's
even
absolutely
talking about the
ridiculous.
contract. I'm just
No,
talking on
I
a
know.
personal level.
Right.
If you talk to that guy and what that guy says to you doesn't get you fired up and ready to sign him,
Absolutely.
what are you even doing here?
And what have we had in right field since Jermaine died?
Yeah, I mean, you were trying to replace Tim Anderson at the time, who was
Essentially.
kind of like moving his way up. I mean, granted, or you could have, I guess you could have moved him to third base, and then you would have had to move Yohan back to second. I mean, it was going to create all sorts of issues. The one that wasn't going to create any issues was right field.
Yeah,
Because
it's been a gaping hole for forever and a day.
Forever. Yeah. Anyway, that's that.
Yeah. No, like I said, I'm gonna smoke a half a pack of cigarettes in
Yeah,
this
I just
segment
I
alone.
just wanted to create I just wanted to create stress. So also
Thanks, man.
yeah, earlier today, Rangers took a 2-0 lead on the Astros. Rangers just looking, you know, Nathan Eovaldi looked phenomenal. Um, that team has just looked like they're on a mission as well, just like the D-backs before they ran into the Phillies, and watching the Phillies as well. They just look like they are locked in, and the Astros look like they look like they're still a good team, but they find themselves always chasing, you know? And it's been tough. They haven't been able to get back up over that hump, They've gotten close, but still no dice,
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you just brought up another name when you brought up Giovaldi. That just a few short years ago was a name that I would not have minded seeing in black and white pinstripes, but I digress.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do, you know? Um it's kind of one of those things where like when we look at stuff and we're like that guy seems like a no-brainer, and we generally end up like I'd say like if we were one of those 1-800 betting numbers that those guys that do those ads that are on the radio, I'd
Ah,
say that our
I know
odds
where
are
you're
pretty
going.
stinking good, and that we have a pretty good winning percentage on this stuff. And it seems like no matter what, the White Sox always managed, up to this, like the last 10 years, whenever it comes to pro player acquisitions, seems like they have a very bad win percentage on this stuff. Well, it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah,
They do have a bad.
well, they're the best at being losers.
Hmm,
Maybe not the best, but they're upper echelon at being losers.
I need to get
Mm.
that Karate Kid song going. You're the
Be the
best
best
around. All
around.
right.
All right, sorry
So
guys, we won't do that again.
yeah, moving to the AFL. Just move through this pretty quickly. So Colson Montgomery started off slow his first week. I think it took him 12 at bats to get his first single. Um, and he had a couple more singles. Struck out quite a bit. Didn't seem like he was. Just seemed like he was a little bit off. Well, he has since then righted the ship. Tonight I think he's 0 for 2 with a fly out and a ground out, but then he just got hit by a pitch. Um, but in the last couple of games, he had 3 home runs. He had a home run, his first home run, which he also hit a triple that night, and then he hit 2 home runs the next day. He went from like a 085 batting average up to a 250 before today's game, and something like a 600 or 806 OPS in just a couple of games, catching all that stuff up. Seems a lot more comfortable. Um,
It's pretty okay.
yeah,
806.
yeah. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, especially after the way he started. It took him a little bit to get it, but it seems like he's starting to catch up, and that's good. Jacob Burke is one hit behind Montgomery and tied with Ramos with 8 hits. He has 1 home run and a double, 6 singles. It's
Throwing some leather.
looked fantastic defensively. Um,
Yeah.
and he's 222 with a 697 OPS. It's okay. Um, let's see. Ramos, he started off a little bit faster than the other guys. Had a couple of doubles, and he's tied with hits with Jacob Burke, 8 hits. He's hitting 200 with a 488 OPS because he keeps on hitting all these singles, and his defenses look pretty good. He made one throwing error, but other than that, he's been pretty decent. As far as the pitching goes, Eder before tonight, he had a .67 WHIP through 6 innings. Tonight, he was
Is that
at
good? That's
yeah,
pretty
it
good,
seems
man.
like it's pretty decent. But if you look at tonight, he had some walk issues in the first inning.
Oh.
which obviously I haven't been able to focus on it because I've been talking to you and our
Well, thank you for
fine
hanging
viewers
out
and
with me.
listeners. But he had some walk issues. But if you look on the game day and you look at the strike zones, it's ugly, man. There's like all sorts of uh, green, which is the color for a non-strike, all in the strike zone. So that's very handy. And the pitches all did look close from what I was glancing out of the corner of my eye here.
So what you're
Um,
saying is he might have got squeezed a little
it's
bit.
happened a couple of times. It's happened to Yosimar Kuzin, um, who hasn't really been that bad. His ERA is not
Nah,
not very good. I think it's like a 6 through like 5.2 innings, but there have been some defensive miscues that have cost him innings, continuance of innings, which has really hurt his pitch counts and his obviously his run total. So that's been like what's been kind of getting him in trouble is that I know Hickey, the catcher for the Red Sox, that's on the Desert Dogs. He's got like 5 throwing errors and a bunch of pass balls. So he's not helping things out at all.
mm,
um, and he's also not helping with the bat, which is supposed to be his calling card, and he's hitting like 100. So, um, yeah,
that's
it's
not
just
good.
yeah. I mean, it's the Arizona Fall League, and you know, you can't long season for some of these guys, and some of them are, you know, whatever, just returning from injuries and whatever, and you know, getting some extra work in and whatever. Um, but moving on there, so Jordan Leisure. Oh, sorry, Jordan Leisure is the one with the .67 whip. That's what that is.
There you go.
Eater had like
That's
a
pretty good.
1.7 whip or something like that, which it's because of the walks, which, like I said, he's been getting screwed from these
Squeezed, yeah.
umpires. Um, but Jordan Leisure, .67 whip. He had a 3 ERA because I think he gave up a solo shot in 1 inning, and he's pitched 3 innings, I believe. Um, Fraser Ellard, the destructor of rosin bags. He's looked pretty decent. There's been a couple of walks. I think he had 1 inning where he gave up like 3 runs, and that's why his ERA is like something like a 9 or something like that. And Addison
I love
Coffee,
that.
he's walked a lot of guys, so his whip is like 2 something, and he's
Ooh,
given up a couple home runs, so his ERA is like a 27. Um,
ouch.
yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. There might be like there's something that's not quite right there. He gave up a solo shot in his last outing, and but he struck out 2 in that inning, so he looked better. At least from what I can see from game day and whatever, because they did not stream that game. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Don't you love that?
That's about all I've got for this week. You got anything else?
No, I think that about covers it. Like I said earlier in the show, I just kind of want to rehash. We know what we're kind of getting ourselves into for this next season.
Yep.
So my only hope now is that the off season brings us news that the again, I hate to say it, but the direction of the organization needs to make a turn. And that's all I'm really hoping for at this point because we know we're not going to be competitive for any kind of deep postseason run. So this year's focus coming up is going to be let's just see what we can get out of this new direction that they want to take and this new staff that they're bringing in from top to bottom, whether it's front office or coaching or whatever. Because right now I'm not feeling great.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate
Some
it.
of the, by the way, we I don't know if we mentioned it tonight. We didn't mention it tonight, but a lot of those hires that we'd been hearing about, whispers, most of them have been confirmed. So as of late,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like, you know, what else? Because if
right?
you let Andy Burkett leave, who you replacing him with, and I mean, it all depends. Like, are you taking him from a good organization? I hope so. That's the thing, is that we'll see once the season ends. I got to see who they're bringing in. It's just,
Oh, we're just going to be the Royals East.
yeah. Well, like I said, if they're gonna hire Royals guys, what are you waiting for? They're not doing anything. They don't have to wait. They're just hanging out. They're doing the same thing we're doing. They're probably sitting here watching podcasts and streams.
Well, maybe that's a sign that they are going to for the rest of these
I
editions.
hope so.
They're going to wait for the postseason to finish up and see who's available. But I mean, goodness gracious, the amount of change and turnover that's happened over the last few weeks. I mean, it feels like there has just been a full-on influx of new blood in the system, and we haven't even finished the baseball season that we are currently in.
It's
We
true.
don't know who's going to be out there and who's going to be available. Oh, okay, I'm done.
Unfortunately, I know Pedro's going to be there.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I have decided that I am, you know, the last month and a half made me decide that I'm not a Pedrophile. So,
Yeah.
anywho,
Yeah, with you.
at Daily White Sox on Twitter, whitesoxdaily.substack.com. You can find written material. You can find these podcasts. You can find this stream on YouTube's. It'll be available shortly. The podcast is available anywhere where you get your podcasts. My name is Ian Eskridge, at iEskridge on Twitter. My co-host, that guy, at Danny Miller, WSP, WSD. Oh, look at that. I got to fix that. WSD, Danny Miller.
Oh,
Yeah, look at
what
that.
happened there?
I put the wrong window on. I redid this entire layout, and I put the wrong stinking window on there. I'm going to fix that. That's aggravating. Anywho, yeah, so until next week, we will catch you guys. See you guys next week. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. Thanks for hopping in the chat. Thanks for watching and listening. And
Yeah, thanks for just sticking around through this dismal, abysmal
this season.
White Sox season and now off season.
Hopefully some fun's coming, but we'll see.
It's a grind for all of us, whether you're a podcaster, blogger, or just a reader and listener.
If you're
So
just
we
a
appreciate
fan,
you guys.
it's brutal. So, all right,
Yeah.
you guys have a great
Thanks for
night,
being
and
here.
we will catch you guys next week. Thanks. Have a great night. All right, bye. And there we have it.